Hello everyone, I'm Cleary Eastep. I am the author of the Tree Street Kids middle grade series from Moody Publishers. Books 1 and 2, Jack vs. the Tornado and The Hunt for Fang, released in April. Books 3 and 4 will release in summer 2022. First, it wouldn't be a launch party without a book cake. The covers on top of this cake were edible. Finally, I could literally devour books. Next, I'll tell you about the series and the first 2 books. Then I'll share 3 things that I think kids and even grown-ups will really like about the books. And then I'll read an excerpt from each. The Tree Street Kids is a new children's series set in the 1990s with stories of friendship and adventure for readers 8 to 12. In the first 2 books, Jack vs. the Tornado and The Hunt for Fang, readers will imagine themselves in the funny and engaging stories as the characters face kid-sized challenges, care for the earth and each other, and grow in faith. In book 1, Jack vs. the Tornado, 10-year-old Jack gets the worst birthday present ever. His family moves. Jack says goodbye to his grandparents, his pet chicken Henrietta, and the best hayloft fort in the world, and heads to the suburbs. But he comes up with a plan to get his family back to the farm for good. Only a few things stand in his way, and one of those is tornado season. Book 2 is The Hunt for Fang. Jack and his friends learn some survival skills at the church's summer camp. They'll need them. The kids hike deep into the forest preserve to find Ruthie's lost cat and to protect Jack's new puppy from Fang, the local wildlife. Just when they think they've cornered the enemy, the kids realize someone has gone missing. Here's a few things I think kids and grown-ups too will really enjoy about these books. First is the cutest pets ever. In the first book, Jack, who's our main character, has a favorite chicken named Henrietta who we meet while he's still living on the farm. When he moves to the suburbs, Jack meets a new furry friend that he names Arrow. But will they get to stay friends? 2, the books are set in the 1990s. The days of no cell phones, but lots of video games and lots of riding bikes with your friends. So if you're 8 to 12 years old, the 1990s is basically ancient history. But if you're a reader or parent who's grown up in the 1990s, that's the good old days. 3, throughout the books, you'll see wonderful illustrations by Aidan Peterson and these fun notes, including Midge's Phenomenal Facts, which is mostly science, Ellison's Bookmarks, which are quotes from his favorite books, and Roger's Riveting History Facts. So now I'm going to read an excerpt from Book 1, Jack vs. the Tornado. This is from Chapter 1, The Worst Birthday Present Ever. For my 10th birthday, I got the worst present ever. We moved. The day after the ice cream cake and new gym shoes, my mom and dad packed up the farmhouse where we'd lived my whole life and kerplunked us into the suburbs of Chicago. My new town, Kings Grove, is only 40 miles away from the farm, but it feels like a million. Moving is worse than getting socks and underwear for your birthday. Here's what you can't pack when you move. The freedom to toss metal coffee cans into the air and shoot them with a BB gun. My favorite chicken, Henrietta, who sits on my lap and even survived a tornado. The way the sun sets behind our barn and turns the distant farm buildings into black silhouettes against the blazing orange sky. And we couldn't pack my grandparents for obvious reasons, who we had lived with on the farm in Goodnow all my life. They stayed to spruce up the place before they put it up for sale and moved too. They said the farm was getting to be too much. That's grown-up code for too much work and too much money. But the worst thing, I couldn't pack the best fort in the world, the hayloft fort in our barn. It was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, creak, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 steps up the wooden ladder. Then a hop over the top of the ladder into the wide open space under the towering ceiling of wood timbers. Since my grandparents had sold their milk cow and horse a few years ago, the loft wasn't stacked with bales of hay anymore. I guess the only animal left in the barn was Grandpa Ernie's old brown Ford Bronco. so the hayloft fort was all mine. Except for 2 giant electric Christmas candles and Midge, my little sister. I had to let her play up there sometimes. Luckily, she doesn't like dolls, and when I frown and say, "Do not touch my stuff," she doesn't. I had the hayloft set up just right. Plastic crates for chairs, 8 cinder blocks and a piece of plywood for a table, and the bucket seat out of a long-gone car. My grandpa had built the barn and the hayloft door by hand when my dad was a kid. The door's oak wood, sanded smooth and stained brown as a big chocolate bar, was almost too fancy for a barn. Across the middle of the door, Grandpa had carved a Bible verse. By faith, he made his home in the promised land like a stranger in a foreign country. The verse is about Abraham, the father of the Hebrew people. When God told him to go to a new place, Abraham obeyed, even though he didn't know where he was going, kind of like moving to the suburbs. The next excerpt I'm going to read is from Book 2, The Hunt for Fang. I'm going to read from Chapter 1, A Howl in the Night. The howl woke me up. Actually, it was more of a screeching, "Yo, yo, yo, yo!" I sat bolt upright and banged my head into the low, slanted ceiling over the right side of my bed. Ow! So much for my nice dream about hitting the tie-breaking home run. I'd hit my head about 100 times since we moved from the farmhouse to Kings Grove in the suburbs at the beginning of summer. I glanced sideways at my purple Nickelodeon Time Blaster clock. For now, it sat on a folding chair on the unslanty ceiling side of my bed. The goo-green numbers glowed 4 a.m. At 6:30 sharp on school days, it would sing out, "Nick, Nick, 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 Nickelodeon." The first day at my new school, August 29th, 1995, was only a couple weeks away. I flopped back onto my pillow just as something white with black spots, the size of my little sister, hurtled through the gray dark. She landed, all pointy knees and elbows, right onto my belly. Oof! The wind rushed out of me. The howl must have woken up Midge, too, who was dressed in her favorite 101 Dalmatian pajamas. Apparently, the foolproof anti-sister room alarm I'd rigged up wasn't so foolproof. Sheesh, little sisters are no respecters of territorial boundaries. "Did you hear that, Jack?" she whisper-screamed into my face. I could smell her morning breath. And chocolate. How Midge always manages to smell like a Tootsie Roll, I have no idea. "It came from the cemetery." Adam's cemetery is on the corner, and our new house is the first house on the block and right next door to the old graveyard. The most ancient tombstones jutting out of the grass like jagged bottom teeth. Even though both our bedrooms are in the attic, Midge's room was technically about 10 feet closer to whatever was out there. I know there's no such thing as ghosts. And there definitely aren't wolves in the suburbs of Chicago. Thanks everyone for joining me today, and I hope that you enjoyed Jack vs. the Tornado and The Hunt for Fang. Here's how to connect with me on social media and at my blog. And for more about the Tree Street Kids series and upcoming books, visit treestreetkids.com. Thanks and happy reading.